All right, so let's go ahead and start with our first thing, fetching the questions. We already have a query that we wrote out, so really we just need to replace the variables in here. So I'm gonna just come up here, I'm gonna name it a query, and I'm just gonna go ahead and write the variables here. So we'll just give it a capital F there. And we're actually going to have 4 things here: the username, branch, repo, and then the path, but we don't have the path showing right now. So the path is potentially not, or is potentially undefined, so we didn't put an exclamation point there. Beepo, what's up? What do you need help with? Here we're going to say branch. Actually, I think I went to the wrong folder. We put this in web. So code review questions, we have a single mutation. Let's create a query. And I called it find, did I do uppercase or lowercase? Lowercase. Find code review questions. Are you using Prisma, by the way, right now? I'm currently using Typeworm instead of Prisma. Or is this just a GraphQL playground from something else? Yeah, so this GraphQL playground right here, you can use with any backend. So this is just for our server or any GraphQL server. So this is our GraphQL server that we built with Typeworm and TypeGraphQL. You can't use subscriptions with Prisma. Not sure if you've run into this before, but it says it could not connect to the WebSocket endpoint in Graphical, and it can't find anything online to fix it. I'd be happy to help you debug it. Why don't we, when we're done with this, when I'm done coding CodePonder for today, we'll take a look at what your code is and see if we can figure it out. So here's our query now. And so something I noticed, and where I see we could use fragments, is here's where we're creating a code review. Here's what we return from the code review. Here are the fields that we find, and by code review I mean code review question. Here's what we returned from that. And so this is an opportune time to add a fragment. So I'm going to add a folder here. Say fragments. And so here I'm going to say code review question. We'll call it info. Code review question info. Yeah, the names of this are getting quite long. That's one thing that I'm kind of like, but yeah, they are just descriptive, and we get pretty nice auto-completion in Visual Studio Code, so we're not having to write it out very often, so I don't mind it too badly. So we're going to say fragment code review question info, and then we specify what field that we want. Okay. And here we're going to specify all those fields. And actually, this would make like a nice little short video. So let's actually just go over this one more time, because I do see a lot of people that ask questions about fragments and don't use them. And here's a perfect opportunity that you'll probably have something similar in your code. So here we have find code review questions, and we return a list of code review questions, and they have these fields. And over here, when I create a code review question, we also use those same fields. And so this is a place where if we're using the same fields in both places and we want them to be the same, we can use a fragment to abstract that. So I'm going to copy these fields, and I created a fragment over here. I called it code review question info, and the type that we used was code review question. So we paste in our types or our fields here that we want to query, and now we come over here and we can do ... and I called it code review question info. And then at the bottom here, we just have to import it. So code review question fragment. And now we can use this here, and we can use it over here. And then we just need to import it in this find over here as well. And the benefit we get from this now is we have abstracted where we store the fields. So now if I want to add a new field that I'm querying from both of those, or remove a field, I can easily just from the fragment over here. What laws of programming do not repeat yourself? Exactly. Hey, Radari. Hey, what's up, bunny? All right, so our fragment is in place here. And we added a fragment type, and we also added a new query, so now's a good time to generate the types for this. And actually, let's save this to get after we create the types. All right. So now in our component over here, what did I call it? There it is, code file. At the very bottom of our thing here, we're just going to add the fetch. So we're going to say find code review questions component. Alright, so if we're loading, we're going to return null. We may add like some spinners at some point. Alright, we're going to just say hi there. Is data possibly undefined? Yeah, it is. So we're going to say not data or loading. Then we're going to return null here. And I think I actually want to just turn this into... I was considering turning this into a regular function with curly braces, I mean. I think that'll be a little easier to read. And so the other thing that we need to do here is I'm going to display what the data that we get is, but we also need to pass in variables to define what we're fetching. So branch, and I think all of these actually come and username. All these things come from our props already. Also the path here, I actually don't want it to be the default to be a slash. If it's undefined, that's totally fine. But when we're creating a question here, that means the path could possibly be null, and we are totally fine with that. So why don't we update our server then? So code review question, I'm gonna make the path nullable instead of trying to do a slash there. Was I supposed to add that here? I think I was. And I'm gonna add it to the GraphQL field as well. Cool. So that means the path can sometimes be null. So we're gonna say string or null. And I believe our server should restart, and it's gonna have a new schema now. You need to provide explicit type for code review question path. Oh, because it's string or null here. There we are. Uppercase S. I'm sorry, you probably get asked this often, but are you curious why you went with React as opposed to Angular or even Vue? Pretty much, I just know React the best, and I've never tried Angular or Vue before, so that's pretty much why I went with it. So now that we have a new type for here, we just need to update our types again. So we're going to generate, and what that's going to do is this should hopefully update. The other thing though that we're going to have to actually update before that we see a change there is now that the path is no longer mandatory, can remove it there. And I think we also need to change our input type. See how we have this as a required field for the path there? Say or null. There we go. Now I think the server should restart and we should get a better, well not better, but the type that we expect. Nice, so the errors went away. Alright, so here's a JSON string of what we got back from our fetch or our query. And that looks accurate. We can see the username, same as here. And so the other thing is, now if I go to a different file, I should see this being empty, hopefully. Like, we haven't added anything to renovate, no questions. But now if I add a question, and I refresh, and now shows up. Awesome. Now I had to refresh to see it. We would want to update the cache or refetch the query automatically when we do the form here. But quite frankly, I'm not sure if we're going to keep the form and this format anyway. I'm mostly doing this just to test everything out right now and to get like a flow. I'm trying to decide if it's worthwhile actually rendering them. It takes 2 seconds. Why not? Let's map through it. All right, so each one's going to be a code review question. And each one has an ID. Code review question dot question. And we're going to use the ID as the key because we're iterating through a list and we have to add a key. All right, so I asked, I don't know. show second question. So now I want to be able to respond to different questions. So to be able to respond to a question, we need to be able to store it. So let's create a new entity that's going to be, really I want to call this code review question response. But that's kind of long. I may just want to call it question response. I think I'm going to go ahead and go with a longer name. Actually, that's just going to get so long. I'm going to go with question response. Which I just could call it code or just call it response. I think response is too vague. I always have naming problems. I've settled on code or question response will be suitable. So this is going to have a one-to-many relationship with code review question. All right, so we're going to have an ID on this, and the response is actually going to be quite simple. All right, gotta go, but I'll be back later. Good luck with your project. Thanks, Beepo. ID. Here's going to be the response, which is going to be just a string of text. We'll keep it a field. All these other things we don't care about. We do care about the created at and the updated at. We also care about who wrote this question. And I think I'm fine just doing creator and creator ID for questions. It is a little weird. You'll notice here we have code review questions. Let's change that to question responses. So don't need to add anything else there. And then there's one other field that we have to add. Wouldn't you need a question ID? Exactly. We need to point back to the question itself and set up the many-to-one relationship. So just like we have the creator, we're going to have a question ID. Yep, question responses is exactly what it'll be. Creator ID, we're gonna have question ID, and again, this is gonna be a UID. And we can literally copy the exact thing that we use for the user because it's the same relationship setup. All right, we'll add this to the bottom here. So this is just the other end of the relationship. In this case, it's not creator, it is question. Nice. So I think this entity is good. We don't need the int there. And now we have a place to store the responses for the users. All right. So modules, we can create a new one. And I don't think I want to make it plural, so. I'm wondering if I should just call this resolver. And have, like, because I'm going to have a resolver in each one of these. I think I'm gonna keep it like this. I think I like a unique name better for now. Question response resolver. All right, so this is where we're going to get into sharing code, or at least we're going to give it a try and see how it goes. So this is going to be question response. Actually, we haven't created this type yet. When you say do dot resolver, do you mean you like resolver.ts better? All right. So we're gonna create a shared folder. So first we're gonna rewrite it. Okay, let's just switch to resolver. If you guys like that better, I'm cool with that. I'm kind of borderline between the two. Okay, you like question response dot resolver dot ts. That's kind of interesting. I'm down for this, but yeah, we don't really need it because we already have this level. The only reason why I you can kind of argue for the unique name is when I type it here, I could say question response resolver and have it show up. But the way I did it, it actually comes up anyway, so never mind. This is just better. So in that case, I'm just gonna rename this to resolver as well. And I have a plugin called Move TypeScript that does that pretty well, and will update the instance. Yes, I understand. And I think I want to rename this to be create input. Yes. Something got messed up. What did I just rename to create input? I wanted to rename this to create input, but I think I messed something up instead. No. All right, we're just gonna do this one manually because I messed it up, I think. So I'm gonna name this create input. Now you can use a VS Code. Yeah, that's what we just saw pop up. It doesn't always fix things for me. I've had times where it hasn't really worked how I wanted it to, so I haven't really been using it as much. The plugins seem to work better for me. You know, I should give it a try though, at least, and again with this project at least. All right, so I'm thinking about this kind of structure. So I know that this is the create input for the code review question, and then doing a similar one for this. I don't know if I like the capital C there. I think I do because this is a class. It feels a little weird that the class name is different than the file, but I guess the class name is different here. But this may be clean. I'm gonna try this, and we may switch it if I don't like the structure. All right, we'll fix that in a second. In our index file, we just need to import this. We now have a question response resolver. There we go, not the entity. All right, so what this is going to look like is this is going to be create question response. Create question response. Yep, that's it. So here we're going to have our response. Is it normal to uppercase the files of classes in certain frameworks? You know, I'm kind of unsure about it in this case, whether I want a capital one there or not. It feels a little weird not to have a capital with a class like this. But honestly, I don't know. I feel like my structure is a little weird. In React, I usually do capitalize my component names. Capital in files is not good. Any reason you moved from loading all resolvers dynamically to find them in an array for create schema? What do you mean by... Oh, are you talking about when I used to have... instead of explicitly importing them here, where I used to have it where it would pick up on the resolver in the modules and just auto import them? The reason why I'm doing it like this is just the structure that Type GraphQL had set up. And so I'm just kind of using what they had recommended. I could probably do what I used to do though, where I basically auto import them looking for the resolver name, which may be something I'll end up doing. We'll see how cumbersome it is to just like add the resolver type here and if it's worth it or not. All right, I've decided. Let's try with the lowercase c here. It'll be nice if these are all lower. Create input, yes. Yes. Let's see if it worked good, and nice, it did. So now we're gonna do a create input as well here. So response is a string, and I don't think we care about anything else. Yeah, we do actually care about one other field. Question ID. We need to know who you responded to. So this is create, and in the middle here, we're going to say question response input. Yeah, you have a project that keeps growing and startup time keeps getting longer with the dynamic loading of resolvers. Oh, that's interesting. That's something I didn't think about. I've never considered the startup time with doing that. I could see that being a problem at some point. So now we're going to use that input there. We also need to create the response. That should be code review question response. So this is going to be create question. Oh. So there's two responses here. Create code, create question response response. That feels a little weird. And there should be question. And I hit F2 there, which allows me to rename in this file as well. Yeah, response feels weird. I don't know if there's a better way to do this and keep our naming convention that we have set up. So response. It does feel a little weird that, I mean, one way is maybe I should just not have named it response, like question response. Because response also kind of has to do with sending responses from the server. So that feels a little weird. I'm just going to keep it for now. So this is going to be question response. This is what we return here. Yeah, maybe there's a better synonym. I'll look for a synonym after this. All right, so we're gonna pass in the creator ID, and let's just see if there's any other field that we need to manually pass in. We're getting the response, we're getting the question ID, and the creator ID. Yep, that looks good to me. Question message. Well, I think the problem is, all right, so let's pull out the thesaurus to figure out a good name besides response. Feedback. Oh, reply is just the word we should be using, guys, not response. There we go. So now we get to do the fun act of renaming. What are the two icons on the right panel? These guys? Or different icons you're talking about? You mean the last two? Like this one and this one? Or are you talking about something else on the right panel? Like down here? Oh, on the left panel. Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about now. I'll talk about those in a second. Let's just make sure we have everything renamed properly. Let's do a save all. And it should be reply, question reply, question reply. Cool. Yeah, getlins and live share is exactly right. So getlins is an extension I have which shows like who made a git commit. So you can see it does a lot of things actually, but one of the things is it says 7 days ago I made this commit. Here's the commit message, GitHub OAuth. And then live share is so you can do pair programming. All right, so now we have this create question response, and now I really want to name it create question reply. Welcome back, Beepo. All right. Now this should be renamed reply there. There should be a name reply. Oh, you figured out your issue? That's good. Well, what it ended up being. Actually, we didn't actually commit a rename. All right, save all. Let's just see if we have the word response anywhere on our server. Nope. Let's not do capital. All right, so okay, we have response in a couple places. So now this should be question reply. We'll add that in a second. Question response resolver. That should be question reply resolver. Response here is good. Response there is just fine. Response there is fine. All right, I think we're good now. I just said question response entity instead of question reply. Oh well. So each time up until now I've used Prisma. I followed the example where I set up the app with GraphQL Yoga, but then I heard you talking about Apollo 2 during your live stream and you tried it out, and I'm guessing Apollo doesn't come with subscriptions right out of the box. So yeah. Yeah, I think Apollo 2, Server 2 does, but you definitely, well not definitely, you may just set it up in a different way than what a GraphQL Yoga does. All right, so what I wanted to do is try to abstract what we're doing here, because we basically have the exact same code in two places now. And I don't know if there's an easy way to do this. And make it generic enough that makes sense. But take a look here. We have the code review question resolver matches pretty much almost identically. Now the differences are what we actually name it, for one, what we use as return types and arguments types, and then lastly, the value here that gets created, it's just the entity. The creator stays the same. We return code review. So we're done with the thesaurus. Type GraphQL has something for us. And we're going to give it a try. So type inheritance, and the one we're going to be doing is resolver inheritance. And so I'm going to put this under modules. I'm going to say shared, and I'm going to say create resolver. I think he called it create base resolver. That's fine with me. All right. That should actually go in here. So we return a base resolver, create a base resolver. We got some T stuff, that's fine. Okay, so let's first off import some stuff. Now for us, we're not going to be using this. We're going to be using this. So in this case, it's going to be authorized. It's going to be a mutation. What we get here, what we actually return, changes. So we're going to say I guess response. We'll say return type. GraphQL return type. Name of this is going to be called create there, but we can add a suffix just like they do. Here we want to know what we should name the argument. I'm just going to call this input here. We're going to say arg name, which is a string. And let's actually add that. And we're going to say arg type, which is T. I guess let's pick the letter. What letter should we use besides T here? Let's pick X is a nice letter. Yeah, archetype. Well, actually, it should just be X maybe. Maybe we don't even need to pass in the archetype. We can just get it from here. I don't know if this is gonna work, by the way. We're gonna might have to do some trial and error. Context, my context. Here we're gonna need to know the key name for the response. Return key, which is gonna be a string. And this is going to be equal to this value that we create up here. That's going to be input. Totally fine keeping the creator there. I should extend object. Spread types when we're creating object types. We're extending object. Lowercase o maybe? No. Alright, I'm just gonna assume any here. We also need to pass in entity. Which we're going to say is just anything. I don't think it really matters for this. All right, I have no idea if this is going to work. Doesn't look like, oh, we need to pass an arg name here. Let's export this and let's give it a try. So now what I'm thinking is my resolver here, I don't actually have to do any of this. Maybe. So now we're going to say extends this. All right, so now let's fill out the questionnaire. So we're gonna call this question reply. What's the next one? So first one's suffix, next is arg name. Here I called it reply. The return key, I called it question reply. The entity is question reply. The GraphQL return type is right here. Create question reply response. And anything else? Nope, I think that's good. Can we just get rid of the constructor? I don't know if we even need it. Comment you out. Now let's go fix errors. You need to provide explicit type for the create parameter. That's right, this arg type. So now we're explicitly saying the type. And this input is the arg type. I don't know, this is kind of cryptic-ish, but it looked like it may have worked. Let's add it over here as well. Code review question. Create question reply input. We call it that. And the key here is that question reply. What the heck is that? That's our entity, which in this case is going to be code review question, and the response should be that. So now let's extend it. And we can get rid of that. Get rid of that, looks like. Import our base resolver here, and we may be good to go. I don't love this approach. Why do you not love it? We have to see if it even works first. See if the server's up. Server's up. All right, so there's a single mutation. If we refresh, we should see, I think, 2. Nice. I mean, there's a reply, or return the reply. It looks right to me. One can extend function in TypeScript. Never needed that though. Yeah, if you want it to inherit from function, is basically what we're saying there. So whatever type we pass in as a generic here, it has to be inheriting from function. This is definitely kind of weird, but I think we can possibly go a step further. The reason why I say that is we can kind of grab what this value should be and this value should be based off of the suffix thing here. And that would limit how much we have to type in. Only difference is we would want to lowercase this, which is kind of funny. Would that work with this case? Yeah, it would work in this case. So what I'm going to do is not have a return key or an arg name. Here we're going to say arg and return key name is going to be suffix, and then we just want to lowercase the first letter. So what is the easiest way to lowercase the first letter? I guess it's to slice it. Something like that maybe. So now I can get rid of that, I can get rid of that. Now this is going to change our schema a little bit, so we're going to have to change how we call the mutation. So now it's called question reply there, and it's called code review question there. I think that's fine. Standardizes it too. Lower first from Lodash. Maybe at some point we'll add Lodash, but so far we haven't needed it. All right. We're gonna now be able to delete a good chunk of code. That's fun. Refactor. I guess the create base resolver. Refactor creating entities. And by the way I'd like to do this is to not just do it for create, but kind of for everything. So that's what we're going to try. Well, not when I say everything, I mean deleting stuff, finding stuff, that sort of thing. Because we have a find over here. Now find may be a little different. This may be too unique. We'll see. We'll see when we get to a point where we have ones that overlap. We have this create question reply now. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Oh, but before I do, I need to rename this. So this is not going to be called question now. It's going to be called code review question. We'll put a lowercase c there. And we're going to have to regenerate types. And we're going to have to change this component. Actually, I feel like we're passing in the variables. Are we passing them in the right way? Hey Ben, what are you drinking? Currently just drinking water. So this is tripping me out. We have this create code review question, or oh, this should be called create code review. Why did I call this create code review? We're not creating a code here. Dang it. No, not vodka today. Create code review question. Well, I messed up the naming here quite bad. Create code review question. Okay, I just did this super weird. Pro tip, guys, we do not need to write it all out like this. We can actually... Why did I do it like this? Oh well. So this is a good learning opportunity. So I wrote out all these variables when we have an input type called code review question, and I just passed everything in. So instead of doing it like that, I can get rid of individually adding all these fields, and I can just say code review question here and create a variable for it. And then I can pass in the input, which we call the create code review question input. Then I can get rid of all these variables here and pass it in like that. So now we have just a single variable that we pass in, and all the data that's stored about what this has in it, we still get, but we now just pass in a variable called code review question, and this avoids us having to type all that stuff out. But that does mean we have to generate the types, and this is going to change over here. So I usually do it like that. That's why it was weirding me out that I didn't do it like that. This one we can't because we don't have a single input. We split out into multiple, which is cool, which is fine with that. All right, so this type no longer exists. So now we do that. Alrighty, so let's create a new folder here. This is going to be question reply. Let's do a folder structure again. So here we're going to have a mutation and query. Just go ahead and add the mutations for now. We can add the other folders as we get them. I'm just going to copy the name. Actually, we don't really have a good place where we called it. I guess right there is kind of I can copy. Just change the name via change symbol. Yeah, I should have. Sometimes I just don't do that for some reason. I really should use that more. I was using it some earlier, and then all of a sudden I just stopped. I like go back and forth. I don't know why. So let's write out our thing over here. Not sure what fields we want back from this. But that's the nice thing about GraphQL is you can just always change it whenever you want pretty easily. Create question reply, and here we're just going to pass in a variable, and now we have a choice. We can create two variables, two strings, or we can create a single question reply one. That's what I'm going to do. The other nice thing about doing this is as the arguments change, we don't have to change anything here. And I'm calling these mutations. I just realized something. Do I need to be writing these? I think they generate something for us. No, they copy them over, but I don't know if I need to generate them or not. No, I think these are direct copies of what I wrote. I think I still need to write these. Alright, so let's generate the type definitions for the equate question reply. And now for each question, someone could possibly reply. So we can create our own component called, I guess, reply. Let's call it question reply. What plugin to use for highlighting GraphQL syntax? GraphQL for VS Code by Kumar. And we need to move the key to the outer level. All right, so each one of these we could make now a little form. All right, we already have a utils. Use input value. I'm just going to move over here. I may get rid of it soon. I don't think I'm really going to use it in the end product. I think I'm going to use formix. Come on, there we go. All right, so we're gonna have an empty string at first. All right, nothing special going on here. We just have like an input field now that we can reply to each one of these. Did you have to configure a plugin? I did try it, but I wasn't very happy with it. The autocomplete was non-existent. I think I messed something up. This one I don't think comes with any autocompletion. Just kidding. It does come with autocomplete. ensure that this GraphQL is installed and available to. Do I have any other GraphQL one? Maybe I'm using a different GraphQL one. I don't think so. I don't think I went through any of this setup, to be honest. I definitely don't think I have a .graphql config in this file. Yeah, I didn't actually go through and set anything up. I think I'm just using it for the syntax highlighting. I don't think I'm getting any other extra stuff. And we're just going to go through pretty much the same thing that we did before. Oh man, I wanted to install, or not install, but import the component. So it didn't actually show up when I created it. Because we need to add it. Now we can generate and it should be there. All right. And we need to take the question ID as a prop. We'll just log this so we can see it worked or not. And the reply is just going to be the value of the text. All right, so server's up. So got invalid value, field question ID of type required was not provided. And that's because we didn't pass it as a prop. And so the question ID is just going to be the thing that we're looping through. Okay, so we added a question, got some data back. I'm gonna refresh. We're not actually fetching it right now. So to make sure this is working, what we can do is select it from the database. All right, we have one row. Nice. So now we are creating question replies on the front end. Kappa asked, have you done, will you be doing any optimistic rendering on this project? I think we probably will be doing optimistic rendering, and how I see it working is whenever we reply to a comment, the comment should like insta appear, and so we're going to be using optimistic rendering for that. So I definitely see adding that. All right, so let's just recap what we've done so far. We can fetch questions for a single file. We didn't get into data loader. We added a fragment. We can now create responses for questions. The next thing is to actually fetch the question responses themselves. So what's involved with this is I think I want to start by coming over here to our code review question. I think the ideal way for this to work is when we call the find code review questions, we also grab the replies. So I want to add a type on the code review question type where we grab its replies. And instead of question reply, this should really be question replies because we could have a ton. And I'm just going to name it short replies. And so I'm going to make this into a GraphQL field. And now this is going to decide what type we return. And so this is going to return an array of question reply. So now that I save that, I think if I refresh, all right, we need to let our server refresh first. We now have a replies on this. If I click on replies, you can see the values here. Now, if we actually try fetching this, which we can add some variables, username, I like the autocomplete that they give us in the query right here. Let's not even worry about the path. All right, so we can see two values here, and now let's try getting the replies for them. All right. Wait, what the heck? It actually worked. I was not expecting this to work at all. That's kind of interesting. We haven't added any code for it to fetch the replies. I have no idea why that worked. So I'm just gonna log what we get when we find code review questions. Yeah, I mean, all we're doing here is we're finding all the questions. Typeworm must be loading the replies automatically, which I think it should not do because we said that this is a promise. So it should wait to oh, you know what? Oh, that's amazing. Because we wanted the field. Yeah, that's perfect. Actually, it's working. Wow, it actually worked perfectly. I didn't realize you could do this type of integration. So come over to my server. Here's what I expect. When I run this, yeah. So notice the replies don't show up here. It actually fetches the replies. Typeworm fetches the replies for me. That's cool. I've been interested in offline first app, but it isn't very compatible yet with GraphQL. The best I saw was this medium post using creative code. Yeah, I haven't tried too much with offline stuff. The best thing that I know is there is that like one offline package. So okay, so here are the three things that I know do offline stuff. there's that Apollo one, which I haven't really looked here. I haven't really looked at any of the offline stuff, but there's that. There's Luna. What would I search to find this? It would be Luna, React. It would be React. It would be Apollo, link state, Luna, maybe Medium. I actually don't know what to Google search to find this. Maybe if I go to the Medium for the guild. Oh, I was spelling Luna just straight wrong. Yeah, I'll explain what's going on with, I think I figured out what's going on with it, and I'll explain it in a second. So Luna has offline stuff. And so this works with Apollo link state pretty much on top of it, and they handle offline. So that's another thing to look at. And then AppSync does offline stuff. So those are the 3 things that I know that do offline and that I would look into if I was building an offline app with GraphQL. Anyway, so what the heck happened, right? So here's what happens. So you'll notice we don't have the replies here, and really it's this one's the one that had a reply, I think. And even though we can't see it, what it really is a promise that resolves to the replies. All right. So what does that mean? It's a question that, is this? Yeah, it's gonna automatically do the, wow. So I had no idea I could actually set it up like this. This will allow me to choose whether I want to load stuff using data loader or using joins. So actually what I want to do is I also want to add logging to see what type GraphQL does under the hood. Oh, sorry, I was in the middle of explaining it. So what we did is we returned an object that has the key replies, and it's a promise. And in our GraphQL over here, we requested replies, right? We were like, we want them. And so when they were returned in the typeOrm objects, we had promises. And so what it did is it called the promises. Basically, I think it calls them one by one. Actually, right now it's really bad that it's doing this. We're gonna log it and see the SQL that gets run, but I think it's pretty bad what it's doing right now. But yeah, it resolves the promise basically. So GraphQL knew that we wanted the replies. It saw the replies were in the object and that it just needed to resolve the promise, and so it went ahead and resolved it. So it's actually running really inefficient code right now, I think. Orm config. It resolves all the nodes in the graph. So basically, all GraphQL does is it resolves promises if you want the field. So we wanted the field replies, it saw that it was there, and that was a promise, and so it resolved it. What's the benefit of what we're currently doing? I mean, it automatically doing that, I believe, is actually not good for us, and I'll show you why. All right, so I ran this. So I turned logging in the wrong place. We want production. I mean, development, not production. All right, cool. I see a bunch of stuff. Let's run it. Yeah, this is exactly what I thought. All right, so it's running 4 SQL statements. The first one, it's selecting all the code review questions. Then it tries And notice we have 3, right? We have 3 code review questions. And then for each code review question it found, it tries to get the replies for it. So here's it trying to get the replies. Here's it trying to get the replies for the second question and get the replies for the third question. So it's trying to get the replies for each question. And let's say we have 10 questions. It's going to make 10 SQL statements for all the replies. And so this is where we actually want to add in, what's it called? Data loader to prevent this sort of thing. But that's going to be an optimization we don't have to add right now. We can still run it right now. So in my query over here, in my code review question, we want to grab the replies now, get the ID, and what else? And okay, so fun thing here, we have another fragment opportunity. So the question reply over here, this matches up with this. So I'm going to say question reply info. So now we can use it over here. And we can use the same thing all the way. And by the way, we're using a fragment inside of a fragment now. So that's kind of nifty. So the replies, whenever we create a reply, we want the same values that when we fetch the replies. So it's good to match up there. Generate types. What's the difference if I type it to a promise you specify in the option eager to true? I think if you get rid of the promise and you set eager to true, what's going to happen is it's automatically going to make the SQL statement. So in our server and our resolver, so when I console logged it here, it didn't have the replies. And so if we had eager, it would have the replies because it automatically fetches them. Has anyone tried batch loader? I haven't. Is that the one that's specific to TypeScript? So what this opens up for us is in the question reply. No. Yeah, I haven't tried out batch loader. We may give it a try. See if I like it. Is now we can map through the replies. Alright, so now I'm going to say div. reply.reply. Maybe I should have called that text. I feel like that would have been a better name. I feel like I did a poor job when I said code review question. I called it question here. I really think I should name this text and this text. I think that makes more sense. That does mean I'm going to have to change the inputs real quick. or value. Do I like value or text better? I think I like text better because it's a little bit more descriptive, because it tells me it's a string. So now I just need to update the fragment, because now it's going to say text. And the fragment over here is going to say text. Or body. Body could be good. Cannot query type. Code review question info. Nope, just didn't hit save. So now this is going to be reply.text. And this is going to be create code review question.text. Ben, how are you finding type GraphQL? I can't get used to not writing STL and using decorators. It definitely is a little bit weird, but we got to do a fun code sharing thing today. All right, so I'm extending this thing called the code review question base resolver. And I'm also extending it over here, question reply base resolver. And so what this thing does, as you can see, is it actually generates a mutation. So that inheritance actually creates this create question reply and the create code review question automatically. So that's pretty cool. So that's what I like about it, is being able to set up things like this where I can share stuff between them. It definitely is a little weird at first, but I'm starting to get more used to it. I hate when I decide to change something like this and I always end up forgetting something and cause annoying problems. Yes, definitely. But that's one reason why, again, yep, TypeScript, you don't have to worry about it as much. Stuff gets caught, like you can know where you messed up the names of stuff. Also, GraphQL helps quite a bit too. Okay, we already generated. We don't have to regenerate. See, look, it's telling me right here that this should be text. Awesome. Let me rename that to text. Text, text, text. Really? Alright, it doesn't like that. That's fine. Oh, because we have text up there. Alright, let's rename this to question. Let's rename this then. So text, this should be code. Which means if I change that, I have to change where I was grabbing it. Oh, this should say question. You know what? Let's call it text. I like text better. There we go. Text change. So where was I using this? Pages, I think. Repo. Code. Perfect. Yeah, try out extending resolvers. I think that's really the cool thing about type GraphQL. I agree, though, the abstraction does make it harder to follow, and it's kind of a little bit weird. Recommendations on learning TypeScript. Yep, I agree with Lulu. I think the intro is pretty good. I think that's what I did as well. Yeah, setting up TypeScript can kind of be annoying a lot of times, and especially if sometimes with some tooling, it can be pretty difficult too. Where am I even at with this? Am I at the point where I can see stuff? I think great question was a reply. I changed a lot of stuff. I don't think I need that comment anymore. Let's clean that up. So I'm going to make the replies a different color, just so I can see the difference. All right, cool. So that's a reply. Yeah, that cheat sheet is really nice as well. I use that. use typeworm init to generate tsconfig and stuff. Yeah, I think that's what I used to set up this project, like when I was doing the 24-hour startup challenge. How much time of learning Vim is worth? I think it's definitely worth your time. Yeah, I definitely feel the same way as Kappa. Once I got used to TypeScript and use it, I don't really want to go back. Cool, so we crashed something. I mean, we've been making a lot of changes, so I'm not surprised. All right, question reply. This should be text. I think I just needed to restart TypeScript, and we should see if there's any errors in files over here. Nice, so it shows up. Oh, like how long does it take to learn Vim? Yeah, I agree with Lulu. It takes, you can like get up to speed pretty quickly-ish, and then yeah, you learn it for a very long time. I don't think, like, I would say I'm like a, like, I wouldn't even say I'm an intermediate at Vim. I would say I'm like a little bit below it. Okay. After going through Vim Tutor, is it worth just forcing yourself to use Vim while coding until you properly get the hang of it? Yes, that's exactly what I did, and I felt like I learned it pretty well that way. I'm seeing red there, but I'm not seeing red anywhere else. So I'm not sure what, oh, my tsconfig. Alright, so I actually can't see what it's talking about. I'm guessing it's because I didn't pass include. That's kind of awkward. There we go. If I use include there, it works, but I feel like it works. I just needed to pass include here. I feel like I need to pass an exclude. We're going to say node modules, and we're going to include all files that have TS and all files that have TSX. All right, it doesn't like it again. We have a Next.js config there. Maybe it wants us to ignore that. See if there's any JS stuff. I don't think so. Wonder if I can control all. Or maybe if I just minus a couple times. Wow, the error went away as soon as I minused. It goes away as soon as I minimize. That doesn't make any sense. Alright, just not gonna worry about it. I think it's good. So we are fetching replies for questions. Alright, and I think I'm gonna end the stream here, guys. I'm gonna push my code up to Git. Oh yeah, I need a pull. And so tomorrow we're fetching the responses now. That's done. We can add data loader. And let's say we should also try out batch loader. Thanks for coming, main machine. All right, I'll stick around for a few minutes if anyone has questions. It is a project with many files. TypeScript may be having some lag. Yeah, I'm guessing that's probably mixed in there. It was just weird that it was going away and coming back when I was minimizing and not. We're getting pretty close to the point where I'm ready to start working on the UI and working on the actual interface of what this is going to look like. We need to do that. Playground. We're done with playground. Lulu, check out refactoring. Oh, you know what? I was going to do that. I watched some of the videos on YouTube about it and I really liked them. So with the complete package, we get videos, component libraries, color palettes, fonts, and icons. Nice. Yeah, I think I remember that. That might have been when I watched some of the videos first. Interesting. So the component library is looking, not for grabbing CSS. What does it bring that is better than the open source libraries? Yeah. Nice. Alright guys, I'm going to peace out. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.